This feels like a coffee week, and also we need to pick a nice candle. Welcome back to the We Are Not Alone devlog number 22. I'll start this week with a quick crowdfunding wrap up, and I mean very quick. Before we get into what happened development wise this week, there's some pretty cool stuff you're gonna see, so just stay tuned. Although I will do a video all about Kickstarter, why it didn't succeed, the positives that came from it, I just want to start by saying a very big thank you to those that shared the campaign, viewed it, and especially those that backed it. So thank you so much. You're all awesome. I spent more time this week fine-tuning the Indiegogo campaign, especially double-checking all the rewards. And thankfully I did, as there was no shipping attached to one of the t-shirts, which when the campaign ends would have caused a loss of about $10 to $20 per t-shirt sold. But now the Indiegogo campaign is a go. Links are in the description to check it out. I would really appreciate if you did and you shared it around. But let's get into what I did in terms of development this week. I had the brilliant, not really, idea of removing loading screens for each floor of the bunker. This would allow the player to more quickly roam the halls, but I almost immediately started running into issues. I made a dummy testing scene and legoed previous scenes into it. Please ignore my horrible hierarchy if I forgot to blur that out. In most of We Are Not Alone, the game relies on real-time lighting to create the atmosphere, but also to be able to change up lighting on the fly, for instance the emergency situations in the demo. Real-time lighting is a very expensive thing to generate on most hardware, let alone hardware like the Switch, which I am trying to target. I've done a lot of testing on comparable PC hardware to the Switch, and even with the dynamic lighting it still works well. But that is due to me having the individual levels for each room of the game. I spent far too much time fiddling around with different lighting options, using lighting probes, reflection probes, and trying to get performance down to a suitable level. It took me far too long to realize my mistake. And what was that? I got stuck in my head. Again. This is something that if you are a dev, you need to be very mindful about. What I was trying to do was mainly an experiment. Could I do this situation? While this has worked out for me in the past, for instance, the graphical update that people love, this was a slippery slope to me having to redo every level that I have already done in order to try fix a problem that doesn't exist. Not a single person has been vocal about there being loading screens. Why is that? Because they're super quick. On some lower end hardware, they may be a bit longer, but they're not so bad that they break the flow of the game. So I'm going back to what was a core design principle from the very start, having the loading screens. This also helps me to much more easily manage variables, events, and everything of that matter. Before we get onto the cool stuff that I created this week, continuing from last week, I worked on puzzle dependency charts and got most of those finalized, as well as did a quick flowchart for the entirety of Act 1. This was due to me jumping back and forth between so many scenes, I just needed a bit more clarity for myself. While what is on screen is mostly blurred because I don't want to spoil scares, major plot points, puzzles, and cutscenes, it's really helped clear up my brain and help me make some significant progress. It's also helped me realize that a few scenes needed to be shuffled ever so slightly to increase the flow of the game, to make tutorials less crammed together, and also to slowly ramp up the horror elements for one of the character's story arcs. Now with that planning out of the way, and now that I'm also recording everything I do, it's given me the motivation to try record some cool stuff for you all. This led me to start work on a few areas of the game that either didn't exist yet, or were constantly sitting in my head and annoying me. This is the pool and the stairwell. With the pool, I took a scene that already exists, the bathroom, as it has a similar style to what I'm going for, and got to work. I tested the sizing of the pool area itself before putting in some more accurately sized walls, found the correct color for the tiles, then the pool tiles, before adding in some water. I did a tiny bit of set decoration, just environmental stuff, which is placing the pillars around, and then the doors that lead to the other areas of the facility, before finally putting in temporary lights that will just get the job done for now. Another thing I realized I needed was a way to get into the pool. Obviously, I mean, you can jump and if you got upper body strength, pull yourself out, but we needed stairs. Thankfully, Pro Builder has a stair option which made that super simple. Then I just needed to get the textures to line up correctly and bam, we have stairs. And you can see right here that this is what the finished, in inverted commas, product is. I use the term finished very loosely. This is mainly just a block out with no set dressing, something functional that allows me to start putting in all the logic, gameplay, and story elements. The next thing I decided to get done was updates to the stairwell. You can see the original design here and how the floors below it work. and I just wasn't a fan. It was so cramped, and given the height or depth of some areas in each floor, it made no physical sense. So I tore it apart. I decided to make each level of the bunker staggered so there isn't always one directly under the other, plus this gives a little more room for each floor's landing point and the potential for spookiness. I carried on with this, lining everything up as best as possible, and then moved on to the bottom floor. Tiny spoiler here, but the lowest level is flooded. I seem to have a thing with doing water areas this week. So the lowest floor is flooded, and there's a nice little atmospheric red light that you can see to indicate something isn't good here. The only issue I really had was that the water material wasn't lighting properly, so I just popped another light above it. Again, you may be thinking, hey, this looks empty and sterile. What are you doing with your days? Yep, well, if you're a dev, listen to me here. Even if you're not a dev, listen to this. You need to first get everything built as crappy as it is. This is what they call gray boxing for levels. Now, this isn't gray boxing because I am using models, but it's the same kind of principle. Get all that done, get the gameplay in, the logic, the story, everything else, and only then make it prettier. That's the stage of design that we call polish. If I'd polished everything I'm showing you in this video and then decided it wasn't right and scrapped it, how much more time would I have lost? A lot. So yeah, while some of these may look a bit bland, you'll see that in the demo, a lot of the scenes were more heavily polished, and that will come with time. I just want to give a big shout out to JCX1987. They released a playthrough of the demo on YouTube, and almost immediately I saw an issue. I forgot to turn off the inventory items that I was testing with, meaning that they had them from the start. Now this doesn't break anything, it just means you can kind of skip over little steps of puzzles. This is why you do both A, lots of testing, and B, watch people play your game. Big thanks to JCX, they have recently returned to YouTube. There is a link in the description, so go check them out. Alright, almost time to wrap it up. How are you liking these new style of devlogs? To me, I'm finding them really helpful in actually getting things done. Because I want to show you exactly what I'm doing, it's making me focus on things and do things in giant chunks. If I wake up not feeling the greatest, but no, hey, I do need to record just a little bit of something for next week's Andrew to deal with, it's really helpful to just start a tiny little thing, start recording, and that few minutes of working on something usually balloons into hours. The pool design that I showed you, I had 3 hours of footage for that, 4 hours for the stairwell as well. It's just crazy how much you can get done. So let me know in the comments what you think of this new devlog style. Please check out the demo on Steam, GOG, or Epic, and also don't forget to take a look at the Indiegogo campaign. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Andrew, I'm developing We Are Not Alone, and as always, stay indie.